There can be no peace in the world until the military power of Japan is destroyed, with the same completeness as was the power of the European dictators. To do that, we are now engaged in a process of deploying millions of our armed forces against Japan.
The dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a decision that has been shrouded in controversy for the last 68 years. The United States dropped the first atomic bomb, Little Boy, on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. Because this act had no apparent effect on the Japanese government and the possibility of an unconditional surrender, President Harry Truman gave the order to drop the second atomic bomb, Fat Man, on Nagasaki on August 9, 1945. The Japanese still would not surrender unless the emperor was allowed to keep his position. The United States had already secretly decided that this was an acceptable term, so the treaty was still considered unconditional.
In the later stages of the Second World War, an arms race took place. It was a race to see which country could develop a nuclear weapon first, the United States or Germany. Thanks to the help of some of the top scientists and physicists of the time, including J. Robert Oppenheimer and Enrico Fermi, the United States was the first to reach the goal of a functional bomb. Oppenheimer and Fermi were part of a research and development team which worked on the Manhattan Project. After multiple tests, including the first successful test of a nuclear weapon ever, known as the Trinity test, the atomic bombs were ready for use.
While some may say otherwise, many argue that the decision to drop the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was the right decision. If America had not dropped the bombs, the U.S. military would have been faced with the ominous task of invading Japan. The projected losses for the invasion were approximately 800,000 American lives, not including the countless Japanese military and civilian lives that would be lost. One can only imagine how heavily defended the main Japanese island would be, considering how well the Japanese defended their Pacific island holdings. For example, the Japanese lost 31,000 men out of a total force of 36,000 during the Battle of Guadalcanal. This was an island that was thousands of miles away from the main Japanese islands. If Japan lost almost all of their forces on Guadalcanal and made it hard for the Marines to find them by going into underground positions, then what would an invasion of Japan be like? There would be massive banzai charges from both military and civilians. This would cause a huge psychological impact on the American troops, since they would be forced to kill civilians. In addition, it did not seem like the Japanese government would have authorized a surrender until it was the last possibility and they had exhausted all the other options of defense.
However, many believe that the decision was wrong. The atrocities that were a direct result of the bomb were horrible. Burns, blindness, and birth defects that resulted from the bombs continued to haunt the Japanese for decades. Although the Japanese non-military population would certainly have been affected by a land invasion, it is probable that many more civilian lives were lost with the dropping of the bombs that would have been lost in an invasion. The bombs killed an estimated 110,000 civilians in Hiroshima and 60,000 in Nagasaki, not to mention the hundreds of thousands who died in the following days and years from radiation. The last official survivor from both the bombings, Tsutomu Yamaguchi, died in 2010 from stomach cancer, most likely caused by the radiation from the bombs. He was near both Hiroshima and Nagasaki when the bombs were dropped, and as a result, lost hearing in his left ear and was exposed to massive amounts of radiation. His second son, who was 6 months old when the bombs were dropped, died from cancer at the age of 59. The effects of the bombs are still felt, even 65 years later.